Welcome, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on the place you are watching us today. Welcome to this third live that we are doing to support the third video of the free 4-part masterclass, Wake Up Your Eyes. The video was released a couple of days ago, and it was talking about the correlation between emotions and eye symptoms. I think it was a very interesting one. And today we'll be going in deep into this topic and talking about one for more than 15 common eye systems and the emotions that have been related to them. Sorry. If you haven't, I would like to invite you to check on the dates that we are going to be. Sorry, I'm just going to. Sorry, there you are. For the dates. So just to show you. Sorry. Now. Sorry. I'm going to show you about the dates. So today we are on the live September 28th. We released the third video on September 26th. And we are talking about emotions and the relation that they have with eye symptoms. And on September 29th, so tomorrow, we are going to be releasing the fourth video that is about the six scientific levels of Ainhoa's method. It will be all explained in there, and from there we're going to be opening the trolleys in order for you to purchase the program if you wish to. All this information is going to be in the video tomorrow, and to support this video, we are going to do another live on October 1st in order to show you the program inside, how it looks like, and as well to resolve many doubts that you may have about the program. Okay, but all of this will be coming from tomorrow. Right now, you're probably again wondering, why am I here and where is Ainhoa? Well, Ainhoa will be today. Yay! She's feeling much better. And she asked me to start today, and this is what I'm doing. And I'm just going to introduce myself. As you know, my name is Sarah, and I am from Ainhoa's team. And I am a certified, a double certified visual educator in Ainhoa's method, on the ClearSight Method. I started to this journey with the same program. I'm just going to remove this. With the same program as you are watching now, Wake Up Your Eyes. And right now I am here. I started 38 years ago with myopia. Well, 30 years ago with myopia. I started when I was 8 years old. And right now I am fully functional without glasses. And as well, I left behind my astigmatism. And I like to introduce all the guests that we have today with us. We have here Diana. Hello, Diana. We have here
Hello,
Maria.
everyone.
Hello, Maria.
Hello.
More people. We have here Corina and Silvia and
Hi.
Carlos.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey.
How are you?
And we have Maria, that she's going to remain in the backstage chatting with you. Okay. Oh, and Dora, I don't want to miss her as well. Hello, Dora. Sorry.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. So we are these great people today that they are going to be accompanying us today, and they will be sharing their stories, their testimonials, which are they are amazing. Okay. And while we wait, Ainhoa, I'm just going to say goodbye. We'll talk to you in a few minutes. Okay, I'm just going to remove you. Thank you guys. Tirina. Okay, let me see here. Bye bye, Silvia, Dora, and Tirina. And while we wait for Ainhoa and these testimonials, I would like to remind you the actual registration site, registration web for Wake Up Your Eyes, the free course, in case you haven't watched yet the video or you have missed any other videos, either the first one, the second one, this one, the third one, the one that is about today. I fully recommend you to watch it. Okay, and share this link with your loved ones, friends, family, and if you think about this person that will really like up will really take advantage of this course, just share it as well. I like as well to share with you our YouTube channel. I would like you to share with you our link to YouTube in order to join us and subscribe. Okay, you'll find in here plenty of tips, advices, and as well plenty of testimonials that will clarify if your symptom can be helped with this method. And as well, I like you to, this is the link, youtube.com/ClearSight Method. Or if you prefer Facebook, you have here the link as well, facebook.com/ClearSight Method. And finally, if you like to write an email because you have a doubt or you want to ask any questions, I like to share with you our email address, Ainhoa@clearsightmethod.com. Will be very, very, very. Hello, Ainhoa. How are you?
You were saying my name, so I thought I'll pop up at this moment. But yeah, you can finish. So this is the address. If you have questions, Ainhoa@clearsightmethod.com, and then the support team will take you from there and have your back and help you. Thank you very much for the introduction. Would you like me to continue from here, Sarah?
All yours. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And thank you everyone who's here today to share their stories with the ClearSight Method, Wake Up Your Eyes, and natural vision improvement in general. And we're going to show you what you also are able to do for your eyesight and vision. And I don't know if Sarah asked you where you're looking from. We always like to know where people are watching from. So you can write it in the chat. And as she mentioned, in this expansion of lesson number 3 of Wake Up Your Eyes, in the video, we started talking about the relationship between emotions and eyesight symptoms. And today we're going to expand that information and we're going to talk about 15 more symptoms. I'm going to put you back, Sarah, for a moment, because I realize I need to get some gear for this explanation. So I'll be back in a moment. In the meantime, you can maybe, I don't know, introduce one of the people who are here or read some comments. I'll be back in a sec.
Okay, so let's see from where are you watching us today. So I have here a few people, and as well, if you like to share, if you are practicing palming, sunning, and any of the other tips that we were sharing the past days, like blinking, a positive mind, imagination, yawning, stretching, anything that you've done and that you feel that something has changed, that you have improved, that you are noticing any improvements and you feel better, can you please share it with us as well? That would be great to read. And I am going to see from where you are. Ah, hello, I know you're back.
I'm back. I'm back. So I see there's people from Florida and from Valencia. Oh, Maria Ines, if you're listening from Valencia, know that we also have this program in Spanish. It might be more comfortable for you. We also have Barbara from Texas and Alison from London, Daryl Davenport from Tennessee, Elena from Austin, Texas, Mary from Honolulu. Yay, Rhonda from Baltimore. Nice to see you, Rhonda. Yes. Oh, and by the way, Rhonda is saying, I love palming and sunning, and it has helped me after cataract surgery. Yay. We're super happy for you. Deborah from Arizona. And so, if you've been practicing palming and sunning and all the other tips that you were provided during the Wake Up Your Eyes free masterclass by the team, that I'd like to take the occasion to thank wholeheartedly for having supported these lives in the couple past times. I think Sarah mentioned it. For a couple of days, we didn't have electricity, thus we didn't have internet at home. But at the same time, I fell sick. Otherwise, I could have gone somewhere else to do the lives. So I was very grateful that the team was doing such a good job to replace me as I could come back. And by the way, today is a special day because some of you may know, but others don't. Actually, today is my very 50th birthday. Yay, happy birthday to me.
Happy birthday, Ainhoa.
Yeah, so I'm becoming half a century now today since this morning, and because it's my birthday, I have a special present. Actually, you're going to have access to the present tomorrow, but I'll talk about it today. And thank you, Maria is congratulating me. Yay, and Rhonda too. Okay, thank you very much. So let's dive into the topic of today, and then we'll talk about presents, we'll talk about special things, and we'll have a bunch of stories to listen to of testimonials of people who have gone through the Wake Up Your Eyes free masterclass, the ClearSight Method advanced program, and actually those who are here with us today have chosen to become vision educators or vision coaches. And most of them, Sarah, you have finished, but all the others actually are in training at this very moment. They're becoming vision coaches at this moment. And thank you, Mary and Marilyn and Kate and Nature Dweller and Deborah, Barbara. Thank you very much for all of your good wishes. Very nice to receive. So today the topic is about the relationship between eyesight and emotions, and more precisely, eyesight symptoms and emotions. And I'd like for you to know that only to learn this very information you're about to hear, well, back in time, I had to pay hundreds and hundreds of euros to learn this information. And we're so happy that thanks to the online tools, we're able to provide for free for thousands and thousands of people around the world, even more people in Spanish than in English. But we've taught this free masterclass to about almost 4 million people in about 200 countries in the world between Spanish and English. And instead of having you pay, I don't know, 300 euros or $300 or $500, which is probably what you would be paying for learning this in a workshop in Europe or North America, well, we're able to provide this for free. So really do enjoy and take advantage of the free masterclass, practice it, take all the information, all the techniques, the tools, the tactics, the exercises, and apply them. And of course, if you would like to dive deeper, you'll have the opportunity to join the advanced program, the ClearSight Method advanced program. Starting tomorrow, we're going to open registration for 1 week from Friday to Friday, because the following Monday we will start with group number 8 in English, group number 18 in Spanish. Okay, and so today I'm going to talk about this relationship between eyesight and eyesight symptoms and emotions. And for many people, this may be a very, very surprising, wow, You have, woo! So Carol is saying, happy birthday. I know I have 30 years on you. I'll be 80 on October 2nd. Yay, you! Congratulations. And you, it's great that you are here because you also can take advantage of this information beautifully. I have been teaching natural vision improvement for the last 20 years. And there's been people, well, from kids up to people over their 80s or even 90s, and they can improve their eyesight too at any age. I started 6 months old. That was my first natural vision improvement, but I've met people improving at really any age. So yay, I'm super happy that you're here. And yeah, and you can also become an example. And hi, Petra, nice to have also your best wishes for me. Okay, so I was saying I'm going to be talking about this relationship between emotions and eyesight symptoms. And for some people, this may be a strange idea, like something that's kind of unusual. How would emotions impact eyesight? Like maybe for some, this is not logical. Uh, Maybe for others, it's not the first time that you're hearing something like this. And it will make a lot more sense for everybody in any case. So this is specifically an area in which I have done personally scientific research from the University of Toulouse. And part of it I have done also with another colleague, Dr. Anastasia Meidani, from the Department of Sociology. She's a specialist in sociology of health and sociology of the body. And for this research and also for the diffusion that we're doing on natural vision improvement around the world, I personally have received a honorary doctorate in 2023, so last spring, in the month of March, from the International University of I'm translating from Spanish, the International University of Human Development and Leadership. It's a university in Mexico. And our program, the ClearSight Method, Volver a ver claro in Spanish, has received the award to the best natural vision improvement course from the Healthcare and Pharmaceutical Awards organized by Global Health and Pharma. And before me, because I have done research specifically on this, but before me, there's been research existing on this line, on this topic, for at least 70 years. So I have worked on this, but I'm not the only one. I'm not the first one. And of course, if you've been watching the Wake Up Your Eyes free masterclass, you probably learned or remembered that Dr. William Bates was the pioneer who started the scientific research on natural vision improvement. And he proposed a number of brilliant ideas, and I'm going to highlight two of them here. So one is that refractive errors such as myopia or nearsightedness, hyperopia or farsightedness, astigmatism or presbyopia, the need for reading glasses, are actually caused by too much tension in the muscles around the eyes, like the straight muscles, these four muscles here, or the oblique muscles that are outside of the eyes. And in the case of presbyopia, it would be the ciliary muscles that control the crystalline. So I already gave the in detail explanation of what muscle tensions correspond to what specific symptom. Here we're just going to keep the idea that it's muscle tension that creates the refractive errors. Yeah. And the other idea that I'm going to highlight is that Dr. William Bates realized or discovered that this muscle tension was also related to mental tension or stress. Okay, and he was the first to put these two ideas together. Of course, contemporary neurophysiology and neurosciences have also gone much further into understanding the specific physiological mechanisms that are behind this. But now I'm going to talk about a different line of research that is more linked to psychology that has also taken from these ideas from William Bates. So William Bates identified that muscle tension created refractive errors, the most common eyesight issues, and that muscle tension was for some reason or somehow related with mental tension. But he didn't necessarily go and dive very deep into specific kinds of tensions and specific eyesight symptoms. So for that, and that research has been done by other people, I'm going to have to mention somebody else, and that is Dr. Charles Kelly. Mhm. Now, Dr. Charles Kelly, first you need to know he was myopic, or he had nearsightedness. So he had the need for glasses for many, many years. And somehow he got in contact with Margaret Dars Corbett. Margaret Dars Corbett had been a disciple of Dr. William Bates, of the late Dr. William Bates. And it was one of the most famous disciples after Bates' work that carried on with the diffusion of the Bates method. And she was a teacher as her first training, so she was very, very good at teaching. That was her genius talent, right? So she wrote a book also, and she taught to many people the Bates method, and she had many clients. She was based in LA, and she had actually an extremely successful practice in LA. She could hire also assistants. So she had really a clinic that was working, like, I don't know, for very long hours, 7 days of the week. And many, many famous actors of that time went to her practice because, well, for playing characters, sometimes they couldn't wear glasses, and contact lenses were not very advanced back then. So, yeah, she had known people. For example, Kirk Douglas, the father of Michael Douglas, was a client of Margaret Dors Corbett, and maybe the most famous of the clients still nowadays, because people back then would have known the actresses and the actors, but not us. But one of the most known was Aldous Huxley, the author of A Brave New World. Many of us had to read that book in our secondary or high school literature class at some point. Anyway, so Aldous Huxley had been legally blind because of keratitis punctata since age 16. And with Margaret Dars Corbett, he recovered a quite normal life most of the time without glasses. Not all the time, but most of the time. And when you've gone from legally blind into being functional in your daily life most of the time without glasses, I mean, the gratitude that Aldous Huxley had for this lady was so big, and for William Bates was so big, that he wrote a book himself as well called An Art of Seeing, or The Art of Seeing. Sometimes the edition is available, sometimes not. It's a classic in natural vision improvement, a very well-written book, written by a writer. So it's very clear, very understandable. And in that time, in the 40s, it was a book that captured very well the state of the art in natural vision improvement back to then. Of course, we're now like 80 years later, and there's been tons of research in other disciplines, not just ophthalmology, but optometry, neurophysiology, neurosciences, epigenetics, the study of posture or nutrition, and also in psychology, anthropology, history, or sociology, that are actually completing a lot of our understanding of natural vision improvement. But in any case, so Aldous Huxley is a reference. You can check what I'm talking about. And among the clients that Margaret Dars Corbett had, there was also Charles Kelly. And probably you've never heard about him, which is a great pity, but I am going to tell you about this amazing researcher. So Charles Kelly was a psychology student, and he had had myopia. He was very nearsighted for a very long time. And thanks to Margaret Dars Corbett, he recovered the capacity to function without glasses. So he could let go of myopia, of nearsightedness. And because Margaret Dars Corbett was a good educator and teacher, she didn't just like do exercises. She would talk about the principles. She would talk about the underlying theory, or the underlying ideas behind what she was doing. And so with Margaret Dars Corbett, Charles Kelly learned that the myopia had been due to tension in the oblique muscles, and that possibly that tension was caused by mental stress on this hand. On the other hand, as I mentioned, Charles Kelly was a psychology student. So as a psychology student, he was studying, among others, of course, Sigmund Freud and psychoanalysis. And I would imagine that most of the people around here have heard about Sigmund Freud and psychoanalysis. Yeah. Okay, so Sigmund Freud had a number of disciples himself, and some of them followed psychoanalysis to the letter, to the rule, like they were very orthodox. And some of Sigmund Freud's disciples were also very brilliant and had ideas of their own, and included new contributions to the understanding of our psychology, of our psyche, or our functioning. You've probably heard about Carl Gustav Jung. You've probably heard about Lacan, and maybe you've heard about Wilhelm Reich. And this is the one that we're going to talk about here. So Wilhelm Reich is considered the father of bioenergetics. And he had this idea. He had also other brilliant ideas. But the one that interests us here is that he discovered that whenever an emotion is not fully experienced, expressed, integrated, or transcended, that emotion is stored in the body with a form of muscle tension. Mm-hmm. And Wilhelm Reich did do research on the kind of posture that people have when they're experiencing anger very often and not letting go of it, when they're experiencing fear or happiness or sadness, etc., etc. So if you look into bioenergetics, you will notice that there's descriptions of body types and body postures that correspond to this or that emotion, and in what body part it tends to be stored, etc., etc. Yeah, maybe that's a little bit more familiar. And so Charles Kelly put the two and two together. He was like, okay, so Dr. Bates tells us that refractive errors are due to muscle tension. And Wilhelm Reich tells us that emotions are at the basis of muscle tensions many times. By the way, this is continuously being researched, and the very contemporary and groundbreaking research on muscle chains and the fascias, the connective tissue, is also confirming these ideas. But in any case, Charles Kelly heard, okay, so muscle tension is creating refractive errors, and Wilhelm Reich tells that emotional strain is creating the muscle tension. So what if the refractive errors or the vision problems are caused by emotions, and the muscles are the link between the two? Mm-hmm. So because he had been myopic, he decided to do the research on myopia, on nearsightedness, and so he created his PhD that was a co-advised PhD dissertation between the New School of Social Research and the University of Columbia in New York. And he defended his PhD in 1958, talking about the psychological factors in myopia. So this PhD was so brilliant and so well done that it received the prize for the best PhD of the year. And we're talking about a quite recognized institution, yeah. So and after this prize, he was on the radio, on TV, in New York, in LA. He was in the New York Times. So there was a lot of recognition around this research. But unfortunately, probably you had never heard about it, and probably your ophthalmologist or your optometrist never told you about this research or this relationship. So unfortunately, although the finding was absolutely amazing, it vanished. The information on this kind of got lost in translation. Yeah. This is not the only PhD on the topic. We have the same year in the University of California in Los Angeles, the PhD by Jack Fox on functional factors in myopia. And a little bit later, a few years later, Charles Kelly himself, he wrote a book where he expanded these ideas, not just for myopia, but for more eyesight symptoms. And it was published as New Techniques of Vision Improvement in 1971. We also have the PhD by Carlin Zeigerm talking about a psychological approach to the improvement of myopia from the University of Colorado. And in a moment, I'll tell you about a more modern research on vision function in multiple personality disorder. Sarah, remind me to talk about this research in a moment if I don't, okay? But this is to say that as early as 1958, there's research on the correlation of emotions and eyesight symptoms, yeah? The way in which this information, this research was first presented to me was through the work of Dr. Martin Brofman. I was trained with him. He was my first vision improvement teacher. And I was studying his method, I don't know, now it's been over 20 years. And for the 7 last years of his life, I was the person to translate all the workshops that he taught in Spain, translating Spanish to English, English to Spanish. And I took the system of hypothesis and thesis and ideas that Charles Kelly and others and Martin Brofman had developed on not just myopia, but different refractive errors, and not just refractive errors, but different eyesight symptoms, to verify these correlations, to see if these correlations would hold true if I would do research with a much larger basis. So this is what my research was about. There's been a number of samples on this topic with people from different ages, from different countries. One of them was as big as 1,500 people. And so we're going to talk about the results from former research and my research on this correlation between emotions and eyesight issues. Yeah. Okay, and this information, by the way, has been presented in different conferences and congresses of natural vision improvement, but also of lifestyle medicine and health. Okay, so in the video number 3 of the Wake Up Your Eyes free masterclass, we already talked about 4 of these symptoms, which are the most common ones, right? We talked about myopia or nearsightedness. We talked about hyperopia or farsightedness. We talked about astigmatism, when you see things distorted. And we talked about presbyopia, when you have the need for reading glasses, quote, quote, with age. That's what's common, not compulsory, but common. Okay, so now we're going to go through these 4 symptoms again, because they establish a good base for conversation, and we'll go beyond those symptoms to explain at least 15 symptoms, maybe more. We'll see, depending on questions. But before we dive into the specifics, I would like to ask you, if you are here, it is likely that you have come with some eyesight symptom, right? Okay. Oh, Carol's saying your explanation of farsightedness feed me to a T. Okay. So you're going to have the opportunity to verify if other explanations also make sense, if they resonate. Now, you need to understand that we're talking about correlations or tendencies because it's about human behavior, and the laws of physics. And even when we get into quantum theory, it becomes a bit more complex, but Newtonian physics could establish like laws of cause and effect and find 100% relation between cause and effect. But when we're talking about humans in the areas of psychology or sociology or economics or history or anthropology, well, if you have a correlation of 40%, you're like, whoa, I really found something, right? So we need to understand this, because you don't need to take what I'm saying like it's written in stone and it's absolutely like that. But the idea is that you understand the kind of thing I'm talking about. It may not be specifically the example I give, but look at how it resonates with you, if it makes sense, if there are some ahas, if you can recognize something in you or in people that you know that are dear to you and that have those symptoms, if it makes sense. And if you have those ahas, it is likely that they open your eyes, literally, that they allow you to recover eyesight by also freeing yourself. And in this way, you see more clearly outside and also inside of you. Now, We're talking about these are correlations, and in this research that we have done repeatedly, we have found very consistent numbers for what I'm going to talk next. And that is, if you ask people, well, I'm going to ask you, before I go into that direction, I'm going to ask you if you could have a notebook and a pen or paper so that you can take some notes down, it may be useful. But also, I want to ask you 3 questions about the eyesight symptoms that you have before you listen to the information I'm going to give. And those 3 questions are: when did the symptoms start? At what age? What year? If you can remember the month or the part of the year, it would be even better. But in any case, when did the symptoms start? Second question: what was going on in your life at that time? What was happening in your life at that time? And you may have an awareness that very likely there was something stressful happening at that moment. And I'll go back into research on this in a moment. Yeah. But so write down, when did the symptoms start? Whatever symptoms you have, you could have more than one. So you can ask the question for each symptom. When did the symptoms start? What was going on in your life at that time? And the third question, and you may have an answer right now or not, but it will become more clear with the explanation, is: what is the function of the symptom? What does the symptom allow me to do or keep me from doing? And when you understand that, the function of the symptom, the metaphor or the message of the symptom, the reason why the symptom is there, usually becomes very, very clear, thus giving you the keys to solve it. Because once the message is delivered, the messenger can go away. Yeah. And some people are asking, how can we heal the corresponding emotion? So very often awareness has its own momentum, and awareness itself has healing power. And what I'm going to offer right now is a lot of awareness or opportunities for awareness. Now, in the ClearSight Method, in the advanced program, we also have a number of tools and techniques that will help release those emotions with different strategies if awareness alone wasn't enough. But let's dive into the symptoms. So the next thing I wanted to mention is that in the research that we have done, in the statistics, we realized that when we asked people in these 1,500 questionnaires, when did the symptoms start and what was happening at that time, we were asking with a very neutral and open question: what was happening? We didn't ask, was there something stressful happening for you at that moment? Because that would have biased the research, right? And so asking with this open, neutral question, 82% of the people answering spontaneously mentioned stressful situations happening in their lives at the time when the symptoms started. Point number one. Point number two, on the top of those 82%, there was an additional 6% that would start their answers saying sentences like, no, there wasn't anything particular going on. My father died. I really cannot think of anything that happened that year. We moved to another country. Really, I don't know what happened. I lost my job. So that additional 6%, while they were framing their answer as if nothing had happened, they were mentioning one of the 5 most stressful events that a person can go through life, like moving somewhere else, or losing their job, or having a person die, or things like that. Yeah. So we could add that 6% to the 82%, and that would do that at least 88% of people have their eyesight symptoms start at a time in their life where they're going through a very big stressful moment. 88%. So that's even beyond the Pareto rule. You probably have heard about it. And it's the 80-20 rule, right? That 80% of the results are given by 20% of the causes or things like that. Or 80% of the crops are given by 20% of the plants, or 80% of riches is owned by 20% of the people, and so on. So anyway, this 80-20 rule is something that is used very often to say, well, when you find something that accounts for 80% of a phenomenon, you really need to pay attention to that because it's very powerful. So in this research, we're at 88%, almost 90%. So what happened to that 12% that couldn't say about like anything particularly? Well, maybe something stressful happened and they couldn't remember because they were little and they hadn't talked to their parents, or they forgot, which is a psychological mechanism of protection. Okay, so for that 12%, it could be that they also lived something stressful, but because we don't have enough tangible proof, we cannot affirm it. Yeah, so we can leave a question mark and be like scientists should be, like careful and reserved. And yeah, so at least in 88% of cases, the vision problem appears at a time of stress. Maybe 100%, but we don't know for sure. But 88% we know for sure. Now, that's actually one of your questions. What if I do not remember the time when the symptoms started? Okay, so if you don't remember the time when the symptoms started, maybe you can ask your parents or some older relatives or people in your environment. And if you don't know when the symptoms started, but you can identify when it was diagnosed or when you started wearing your first glasses, that could be also a very interesting indication. Yeah. And sometimes people wonder, like, but what if I have what if I had this symptom, or the person had the symptom as a child? And children are happy people, right? Well, children are happy people most of the time, but they're also emotional sponges. So they can pick up tension at home. And maybe they're not very aware, or they will not express it with words. Sometimes they express it with their bodies, that they're uncomfortable about what's going on at home. And maybe some people wonder, but what if the symptom is from birth? Well, guess what? When you were in your mother's womb, you were also picking up what your mother was experiencing, or what was going on in the relationship between your mother and your father, etc. Right? Actually, I was born with a lazy eye, strabismus. I had a squint and very myopic, very nearsighted, which is quite uncommon for kids. Usually, kids are farsighted. And fortunately, all these symptoms were corrected and solved by my first anniversary. So 49 years ago. Yeah. But when I learned about this information, I could go back to my mother and ask her how her pregnancy had been, how she had felt, what were the challenges or the worries that she had. And it made a lot of sense that I would have been born with these three symptoms, because it matched her experience at that time, that I was like a sponge catching up, even though it had nothing to do with me. And also sometimes people say, but what if a symptom is genetic or is in the family? Well, guess what? Epigenetics is telling us nowadays more and more that genes are not like something that's carved in marble forever, but rather that most genes are like on and off switches, and they get switched or not depending on behaviors, thoughts, emotions, relationships, toxins, environment, stress, etc., etc. So when a symptom runs in the family, we can also ask ourselves if the emotional tensions run in the family, if the family shares a specific way of looking at the world, or interpreting life, or interpreting situations, or facing them. Yeah. So I'm going to ask you to listen to this information with an open mind, to suspend judgment. And I'm not saying that there wouldn't be, or shouldn't be, or couldn't be explained by other causes as well. Sometimes reality is multi-layered and multi-factored. And so I'm just going to ask you to listen to this information with interest, curiosity, and wonder if it would make sense, if it would apply to you. Yeah, and see if it resonates, if there's some awareness or light bulbs lighting up. And if this happens, it could be very, very useful, because now you have power. Now you have a key to unlock something that maybe you hadn't been able to solve up to now. Now you have an extra tool to solve the vision issue, the vision problem. Okay. Okay, let me see. I see Petra saying that was exact my problem when the eyesight loss started in 2011. I was in despair. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit more about the specific thing that might have been behind the specific symptom. Yeah. Oh, I see, for example, Carol is saying my older sister got glasses in first grade. Very typical. School is one of the classical producers of nearsightedness, and we're going to talk about this in a moment. And this is actually historically documented. The first epidemic of myopia happened in Prussia in the 19th century. Yeah, when myopia increased up to 5% in the population, and that was like, woohoo, it's increasing a lot. Now we're a lot higher than that. But anyway, and it happened precisely when the first compulsory public school was established in the 19th century in Prussia. So it's very typical. Yes, school can be very stressful indeed. Okay. Since we started talking about myopia, let's start with myopia, with nearsightedness. Yeah. So let me take this space as a metaphor of my personal space, right? The length of my arms. And so when I develop myopia or nearsightedness, I see clearly near, but not far away. So what am I doing with my energy? I'm actually removing myself from a world that feels threatening. I'm looking at the future with fear or insecurity. Mhm. And so I see what's near me, but I'm afraid to look far. I'm afraid to see the future. Myopia and this movement of removing oneself or hiding from the world very often or more often happens in childhood. Mhm. And it typically happens at a moment where there's a change for which the child is not prepared. The child hasn't yet enough trust or enough confidence. And I see Sarah nodding, yes, yes, because you're leaving myopia behind, right? So I'll give you the opportunity to talk in a moment if you want about your personal story on this. So the idea with myopia is that there's some kind of change that you live with stress, with fear, with insecurity. So the emotion behind myopia is fear or insecurity. And some of the typical kinds of changes, again, we're talking about some examples, but it could be something different for a specific person, are, for example, starting school. Starting school is the kind of situation by the book that creates myopia. But not only starting school, it could be also the year when you have a teacher that's very strict, or there's always looking at you and that's punishing you or saying that you're doing things wrong, or a year where the boy or the girl gets bullied in school, for example, or when there is a change in a cycle of school from primary to middle school to high school to university, or finishing university, or starting a new job. So all those changes in cycles, or maybe you've had a teacher and you were comfortable for 2-3 years, and then there's a change in the teacher, and it's not necessarily that the teacher is very strict or stressful, but you've lost the teacher that you liked. So those changes are typical behind early myopia, nearsightedness. Now, the cycles in school are not the only things that could affect and make myopia develop. It could be events at home. For example, mom and dad are arguing a lot, or mom and dad get divorced, or they move to the family moves to another house or another city or another country, or one of the grandparents dies, for example, or one of the parents loses a job. And even if it's not something direct for the kid, but the kid can notice it in the family atmosphere, that there's a sense of insecurity or fear. We've even found things that were more societal. For example, a political crisis or a coup d'état, something like that. It's not the most common, but this kind of sudden changes that put the family in an atmosphere of fear could be behind myopia. Now, within the family, there's one event that is never considered something negative, but that does produce myopia for a number of people, and that is the birth of a little brother or a little sister. And then the attention from parents goes to the little brother and the little sister, and maybe the elder brother or sister starts to feel afraid if he or she's still loved by mom and dad, or if he or she's going to get the attention that he or she needs. Yeah. So that could be also a moment of myopia emerging, nearsightedness. And there's also another kind of event that could happen where myopia could start, and that's more around sexuality and reproduction. And let me be more specific. When we become teenagers and there's like hormones that start changing our bodies and our attention, we have to start dealing with what I like to call the politics of attraction. He likes me, I don't like him, or he likes her and not me, or being attracted and being attractive can be stressful for people when they're young. And some people get lots of things on their face, on their skin. And some people get a good pair of thick glasses to hide behind them and not be seen and not be visible and not be attractive and not have to deal with the politics of attraction. So that's another kind of change that is correlated with the start of myopia. And also linked to reproduction, it's also described that women in their first pregnancy or in the pregnancy number N, that is the challenging one because there's like a lot of kids, or what feels a lot of kids for that woman, that's also a moment where myopia starts. And the women around here, if you've become a mother, you probably remember that that might have been a kind of a challenging moment, a moment where there was fear, insecurity, right? New roles, new responsibilities, yeah, new things to think
Yes,
about. It can be stressful. It can be very
yes.
joyous, and there's a lot of love involved, but it can be also stressful, and women can touch another sense of fear or insecurity around
Mhm.
motherhood. So that's also a typical moment for myopia to begin. So you see the kind of thing, the fear that happened, that was going on when myopia started for you might have been something else, but you see the kind of topics we're talking about. And for those who have had myopia, I would like to know if what I'm talking about rings a bell, if it makes sense. And Sarah, I would like for you to give us, about some sharing about you. Yeah.
Absolutely. So my myopia is very by the book. I mean,
Uh-huh.
oh yeah, absolutely. So I got glasses at 8 when I was 8. But at the same, can you hear some echo or it's just
Yeah,
me?
we can hear well. We can hear well.
Okay, okay,
Go
then
ahead.
it's just me. So when I was 7, I just got the 7 years old. It was my birthday, so a month after, I moved to another town, so new house and new school, and my sister was born as well.
So you have like the combo of situations. Yeah.
And year after, I was changed to school again,
hmm
and my parents at the time started not to get very well. Years
hmm
after they would divorce, but
Uh-huh.
you could feel it already. You
Yeah,
could
you could
feel
feel
it.
the tension. Yeah.
Absolutely. So when I heard all these explanations, like back 2 years ago about you, I was like, oh no way. So then
I,
that
I,
is
I,
when
I swear
happened.
I wasn't spying you. I swear.
But it was all I was taking everything. I was like, wow,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Great. You were gonna say
So
something else, Sarah? Yeah.
well, no, and then during teenage years, I graduated, got more myopia, and then during my 20s, and thank God I stopped on the 30s, and during
hmm
pregnancy and motherhood, didn't have any things, but
hmm
because I was taking things differently.
Yes. Yes, and because I see also Carol is saying, I'm surprised I don't have myopia. It's not so much that the situations happen, because
How you
things like
take
this
it.
can have happened for many of us. We all went to school, etc. But it's about how you take it, how you're prepared to face it. And sometimes we're prepared to face certain things, and we're not prepared to face certain other things, right?
Mhm.
So we're actually going to talk about hyperopia now, which is farsightedness. So with farsightedness, people see better at the distance than near. They don't really see very well at far away either, but they see better far than near. Farsightedness or hyperopia is also an adaptive response to fear, but with a different strategy. You know, if your life is threatened or you feel danger, there's three typical reactions to fear and insecurity. The first is to hide, and that's the myopic response. The second is to run away, right? To flee, to look for the emergency exit and run. Yeah. And that's the response that's behind hyperopia. Hyperopia appears in a moment where you feel that the situation is not safe. It's not safe to be where you are. It's not safe, either the place or the relationship or the situation or what's demanded from you. And so you run away from it, you leave. And that tendency kind of stays for people who are hyperopic. And unfortunately, they develop like this tendency to like go from place to place or from job to job or from relationship to relationship. So they never feel like they deserve to stay, that they're safe, that it's safe to stay. And the pity with that is that in many occasions in life, the best benefits come in the long term. Like you get the most of a beautiful relationship when you stay in it for a long time, and you get growth in a job when you can stay in it for a long time, and you enjoy being someplace when you can, right, be there and make yourself comfortable for a while. So not that you shouldn't ever change jobs or relationships or houses or something, but there is something to look when somebody is hyperopic, if they're having this tendency to run away because they don't feel safe enough. And so it's important for people with myopia, there's like this mantra that would be, it's okay, everything's okay, everything will be okay. And if it's not, I'll be able to handle it. I will be able to face it and survive and do okay. And if you're here, you've probably survived like all the important issues or things that happened in your life because you're here. So you're fine, right? You did well. And with hyperopia, the thing to say is to realize is that certainly now it's safer than it was whenever the hyperopia started. You're probably older and wiser and more experienced, and you can also trust yourself and you can trust life, and it's safe to be where you are, and you can give yourself the present to be present. And when you're present in the present is a present, right? Now, there is a third reaction to danger. So one is to hide, the other one is to run away, and the other one is to fight, to face the danger. Well, interestingly, people who face the challenges, who face the dangerous situation, and instead of running, hiding, or running away, they run towards it, they don't get symptoms. And this has been described more and more also by neurophysiology and neurosciences. When you're going forward in life and to face things, it brings up courage, and it also brings other neurotransmitters like serotonin and oxytocin and all these things. And you actually keep healthy when you're going forward to face stuff. So it's not so much about things not happening in life, because I mean, if we're alive, we're going to go through all these things. We're going to lose dear ones, and we're going to be sick, and there's going to be all kinds of challenges. But it's more about how we are prepared, we feel prepared to face them, right? And even this can be also an exercise that we can do. It's been proven by neurosciences now that when you walk, not if you are in a car, but when you're walking or running, using your body to move forward, and if you're looking to the sides, this is a very physical metaphor of you going forward to face life. And that advancing in space, moving forward and moving your eyes from side to side, actually releases traumas, from your psyche, from your brain, and it improves your eyesight. Yeah. So anyway, it's not often that I talk about this in the free masterclass, but today I was inspired. Some birthday present that you have here. So this would explain, Carol, why you didn't have myopia, because maybe you did have all those challenges, but the way in which you faced them was with courage, and then you didn't have to have the symptom. Okay, so we've talked about myopia and hyperopia as a response to perceived danger, hiding or running away. And we need to talk about other common symptoms. We're going to talk about presbyopia. And probably a lot of the people that are here today have experienced presbyopia, because presbyopia is very common after nowadays after our 40s. 30 years ago, it used to be after our 50s. So in a couple decades, we have lost 10 years of clear eyesight. And again, presbyopia is not a biological determination, because anthropology teaches us that there's whole societies without presbyopia. And curiously, they're the societies where people live longer lives. Okay, so if presbyopia comes with age, these people that live longer lives, they should all be wearing glasses and having eyesight problems, right? And I see Diana is nodding with her head, so I'm going to let Diana be on stage also.
Yeah.
So, and with studies in anthropology, I knew about the Hansa in the Himalayas that are known for living very long lives, and also the Vilacabamba in Ecuador. And this is something you can verify like right now, because there's a Netflix documentary at the moment, and it's something like living 100 years, blue zones or something. I think Diana is going to look for the
Yes.
specific name,
Yes.
the precise name. And in this documentary, you see this journalist that has been researching or studying these areas in the planet where people live very long, and like identifying the commonalities of their lifestyle and their culture and the
Yeah.
social relationships, to see what is that people who live like societies where there's a lot of longevity have in common. And it's interesting that he finds things like having a sense of purpose, having reason to get up in the morning and go do things in your daily life, and also having a close-knit community, and being important in the community, feeling important in your social environment. And in this documentary, you will see, and we have Diana again, you will see that there's a lot of people beyond their 100 years displayed in the documentary, and you will see very few glasses in the whole documentary. You'll see people like women, like doing all kinds of gear work without glasses, men also, and probably, I mean, okay, so some people have read the book. Yes, it's the work by Dan. I don't know how to pronounce the name, Butterner. Anyway, you can look for it. And so even if you don't live in one of those blue zones and you didn't know about this anthropological research and all of this, very likely all of us know at least one person who's beyond their 70s or their 80s, their 90s, and who has an extraordinarily, a very, very good eyesight. Every time I ask the question, a lot of people raise their hand. I say, my grandmother in her 80s or her 90s, she was still able to put the thread in the needle, and she had a very, very good eyesight. So if some people are able to see very well in their later life, it means that it's not biologically determined. It's not something compulsory. We don't have to get bad eyesight after our 40s or our 50s. And actually, I see better and better. And the people who are here around me, they see better and better. And time keeps ticking for us as well. So the question that we need to ask ourselves is, what are the people who see very well in their older age do different than the people who start having eyesight issues in their 40s or in their 50s? And there's been research about that as well. And so, what is that? Let's talk about what's behind presbyopia. And I'll take China as an example, as a starting point. So in continental China, of course, there's been a lot of change in China in the last couple decades or few decades. But in continental China, there was barely any presbyopia for the longest time. Yeah, now there is, but there used not to be any. And if you look at the Chinese society, for example, that is based on Confucianism, and in the families, there's specific roles for specific people. And when people are older, they're precisely the person who sits in the best place in the room, who are served first for food. Everybody's respectful of them, and they come to ask them for advice, and they look at them like they are the stars in the film. The older people are the more recognized and powerful and rewarded, and they're really the superstars. And what happens in our societies where presbyopia happens earlier and earlier? Well, in many countries, after you reach a certain age, you have to retire and you have to stop doing a job that you love, that made you wake up in the morning happy to go do something, or at least feeling meaningful to do something. And then there's technology that goes more and faster and faster, and now your grandkids know how to use the latest phone and how to do everything on them, and you may feel like, what do I have to do? Like, how does this work, right? And sometimes also you want to buy a new house, and then in the bank they're telling you, well, you cannot get a mortgage because you're too old for that. We don't believe that you're going to live long enough to pay it back, so we will just not give it to you. And then for some people, the reproductive cycle is over. So either they had their kids or they don't have them, but there's nothing new that is going to happen there. So people that get presbyopia, they start to feel as if the best of their life was already behind. Mhm. And they are the people who start talking like, in my times, things used to be like this or like that. And if you're alive, your times are also now. They were then, but they're also now, and they're also in the future. So with presbyopia, what happens is that we start looking at the past with nostalgia, with guilt, or with anger, as if the best is already behind. And many of us live in societies that are where there's a lot of ageism. And so youthfulness is like considered amazing, and then you look at yourself in the mirror and you start to see wrinkles and different stains on the skin, and you don't look as young, and then you start feeling like you're less worthy. So that's what's happening behind presbyopia. The person doesn't feel like they're the stars of their own film anymore. They're sensitive to how others are looking at them or are looking at aging, and they don't feel like they're in the driving seat of their own life, or the stars of their own life. So if that is you, if this rings a bell for you, there's something that needs to change, because when we feel that we're not worthy anymore, that we're not the stars anymore, what do we do? What happens with presbyopia? That you need to put things far away so you can see them. Some call it the short arm syndrome, right? Because your arm is not long enough to look at things and see them. What are you doing with your energy? You're giving it away because you don't feel important anymore. You're giving it to your children or your grandchildren or your spouse or your neighbors, or maybe for some social cause because there's hunger in the world. Anyway, but you're giving your energy for what you believe is important now, and you're forgetting about you, the main character in your life. You're forgetting to give energy to yourself, time, attention to yourself. People with presbyopia often demand from themselves to do things too quick. They're running from one thing to the other because they're running from other people's needs to other people's needs, and they're forgetting them in the equation. So if that is you, you need to put yourself back into this star of the film position, into the driver's seat of your own life, and make sure that you make the rest of your life the best of your life. Yeah, and that you take time for yourself. At least once a week, even better if it's every day, make sure that you reserve time for doing those things that you love And the least useful they are for anybody else, the better, because then you're telling yourself and your environment and the universe that you are so important that you deserve to take that time for you, that serves no other purpose than your own enjoyment. And what makes you enjoy could be very different things, because people are different. Maybe for some it's taking a bath with salts and scents and nice music and candles. Maybe for somebody else it's going for a walk or gardening or doing sports or traveling or hanging out with their friends for coffee, right? But that's very important. Easier said than done. Well, Apple, your eyesight depends on it. So it's for you to consider what is worthwhile, what is interesting, what is a priority in your life, right? So, anyway, I also like to talk about what I call positive selfishness, which is an antidote for presbyopia. And I know it will sound exaggerated, but here it goes. So, what's the recipe of positive selfishness to leave presbyopia behind in this relationship with others? Well, first of all, me. Afterwards, me. And then I. And if there's anything else left, it is for me. And I know it sounds exaggerated, but if you've developed presbyopia, you've gone with the pendulum far into being there for others. So you need to swing the pendulum towards yourself. And with time, it will find the proper balance. But you really need to put yourself first. To put yourself in the center. And if you're in one of those societies where you've retired and your kids are older and they're gone and they're living their lives and you feel like you're empty for all these things, well, this emptiness is fertile and it's creating the space for novelty and for all those things that you couldn't do maybe for decades. And maybe you always wanted to go dancing and you never had the opportunity to learn. Well, now it's the moment. Or maybe you always wanted to paint and you never had the opportunity to do it. Well, maybe you won't sell your paintings or do an exposition and tour the world as a famous painter, but who cares? If painting itself is pleasant, go ahead and do it. Diana, I was seeing you nod and nod and nod. It sounds like presbyopia rings a bell.
Oh, yeah.
Wanna
Can
say
you
something
can you
about-
hear me now?
Yeah, yes.
Yes, yes, yes. Because when the first time I heard you talk about this symptoms translation technique, and I heard presbyopia, and I've undergone a lot because since 8 years old, strabismus, astigmatism, then dry eye, well, etc., etc. But presbyopia was the key emotion when I remembered when this first wake up your eyes in the time I took it, and you said, you are important, I cried a lot
Uh-huh.
because I said, wow, that's true. Being, I understand when you say easier said than done. I
Mhm.
understand that because I was at that time, this is impossible, not me, the others. I'm a mom with 3 kids, with a husband, with a house, with my parents. No. Then me there. First the others. But when you realized and you say, oh yes, if I'm not okay, the others around me won't be okay too, because at that time, I was angry all the time, irritated all the time, doing everything well, washing up, taking the kids to school, blah, blah, blah. But
But with
me,
resentment, yeah, you were not happy. Yeah.
that's it. So presbyopia, the presbyopia symptoms are the key, at least for me, they were the key to understand that, then to join the ClearSight method. And now I'm 54 and I said, okay, my 3 kids are old, they can take life for themselves. I begin to study again. Although I'm a teacher, I want to be a teacher again. I want to go on. I have a purpose before me. I go forward to it. So, in a way, this helps at least to understand. It takes time. I understand that it takes time, but you can get it. Be sure that you can get it. And well, it was wow, that aha big moment for me when I understood that me first, then me, and then me, and again and again. And
Well,
yeah,
you know how they say in airports, you need to put your mask with oxygen first, and then you can help others, because you cannot give to others what
yeah,
you don't have. So you need to give it to
yeah,
yourself first.
yeah.
And that is a great important solution. And Mary's asking, sorry, what is presbyopia in common terms? It's the need for reading glasses that comes with
Yeah,
age. You know, that's
yeah,
how we're commonly it's regarded. Yeah.
yeah, around 40. Yeah, because for me it was around 40, and I had other symptoms before, but it
Mhm.
was like that. And I remember thinking about these three questions that you have asked, and I said, well, yes, of course, strabismus appeared long before. I understood why, because it was very specific. I don't want to go on because I will talk for ages, but um, this symptoms technique, this translation that you do, is so powerful, because yeah, it may be it is not 100 there, but it's quite to the key, um, the key places in your memory when
Mhm.
you go back. And well, now we are talking about presbyopia, but it's like that. It's just taking a moment, just 5 minutes, 5 minutes of your whole day, and think of yourself and say, okay,
And I want to congratulate Carol that just has taken that decision. She's like, I have always been on the back burner, always doing for others. No more. Most of my friends are and have always been me, I, me. And now I get it. I tell myself I deserve to do as I
good,
please now.
good for
Congratulations.
you, Karen.
That's going to be very good for your eyesight and very good for your vision of yourself, your vision of life. So when
Yeah,
you improve eyesight, taking these elements into account, not only does your eyesight improve, but your life improves too. And that's a beautiful present also that you can give yourself. And Slap USA is saying, "Oh my God, you're absolutely right. I had become my least priority, and I had become my wife, kids, and my aging parents." Yes. So now you need to make space for you. I
yeah.
mean, you're not going to stop being a wife or a mother or a daughter.
Mm-mm.
You'll also be there, but you need to be there for you, and you need to be put yourself first. Yay, very good.
Yeah.
Thank you, Diana, for
Thank you.
sharing
No problem.
also your story. Now we're going to talk about astigmatism that is also very common. Astigmatism, usually people know it by the scientific name, but the experience is that you see distorted lines or double lines. Yeah, also very common. Often happens together with myopia. Not always, but it's frequent. And what's the story behind astigmatism? Astigmatism appears when the straight muscles are have irregular tension and the cornea takes a shape of football, American football or rugby ball, instead of having a soccer or basketball very round shape. And so that's what creates the distorted lines. But in emotional terms, what happens behind astigmatism is that people have a distorted view of themselves. Let me explain. Instead of being authentic and expressing what they feel and what they want and who they are with the projects that make them happy, they present to others and end up believing for themselves that they want something else or they feel something else or that they should be someone else. And why they would do that? Because they're seeking approval. They're corresponding to expectations others have on them. And I've had astigmatism too. I've had in the past myopia, so nearsightedness, presbyopia, need for reading glasses, and I've had astigmatism too. So I say all of this also with a lot of compassion and understanding, because I have had to go through these things and leave them behind. So with astigmatism, People are seeking approval from others and they're conforming themselves to their expectations. Yeah. Let me give an example. So today is my birthday. So let's imagine little Ainhoa years ago. And actually, this story is not about me, but we can make it about me as an example. Little Ainhoa years ago, because she had been a very good girl, right? The good daughter for mom and dad. Yeah. So it's her birthday. And mom and dad bring her to a big store where there's everything, right? And they say, because you've been such a good girl, we want to give you any present that you want. And let's imagine that little Ainhoa, little girl or little boy, is in the shop, and the first thing they see is this beautiful red bicycle that is saying, take me home, take me home. And instead of running to the bicycle, that is what makes their heart sing, they're like, wait a minute, let's keep looking because maybe I'm going to see something more interesting. So at that moment, they have already not listened to what makes their heart sing. They're second guessing their wish, right? So they keep looking in the shop until they see, and by the way, they're taking time, so parents are getting a bit impatient, and the kid starts to notice that the tension is rising, so feels a little bit more stressed, now wants to please mom and dad even more, until the moment where they see an exam, the British Encyclopedia, the updated British Encyclopedia, and that child says, oh, I'm going to choose the encyclopedia because then mom and dad are going to think that I'm very responsible and I'll have good grades in school, so I'll receive more approval for that. And they choose the encyclopedia. But the worst part is not choosing the encyclopedia for pleasing others. The worst part is that you make yourself believe that you wanted the encyclopedia in the first place when it's not true. You wanted the bicycle, right? Because you're a kid and you want to play and you want to run. So that's the kind of profile behind astigmatism. Astigmatism appears in a moment in life where you lose yourself. Of sight. You don't see yourself clearly, and even you could say that you commit treason to yourself because you're not authentic to yourself, and you're not giving yourself what your soul and your heart needs to be happy. And I developed astigmatism actually in my mid-30s. I didn't have astigmatism as a child. And by the time I got the astigmatism, I was familiar with these ideas. What I noticed was I wasn't seeing clearly, far or near. So I went for a checkup with an ophthalmologist. And this lady told me that I had astigmatism and presbyopia. So I had to look at 34 how I was making my life boring, like the past in my life was better than the future. Okay, this should be an alarm at any age, but in any case, at 34, I thought, okay, I cannot be bored with my life and thinking that the best of my life was behind already. And the astigmatism was telling me that I had betrayed myself, that I was not following my true path, what made my heart sing. And so I had to have a very honest conversation with myself and sit with myself and figure out what I was doing to myself. And I had to realize and to recognize that actually I was playing the role of the good daughter, the good girl that was pleasing the unfulfilled desire of my father to be a university professor, because that's something he wanted to do in life and he couldn't. It doesn't matter the circumstances why that happened. And so I was fulfilling his dream. Yeah, but what about mine? So astigmatism was telling me, girl, now it's the time to go for your goals, for your dream, and to pursue what will make you happy. So here we are. That's what we're doing now. So if you've had astigmatism at some point, if you have astigmatism, I would like to ask you when it started and what choice did you make at that time that didn't reflect who you truly are, but reflected something that you thought was expected from you. And the expectations could be in different roles. It could be being a good daughter or a good son or a good father or a good mother or a good spouse or a good professional or this or that, because there's also expectations about certain behaviors in certain professions. I have an acquaintance who developed astigmatism when she started to study law, to become a lawyer. And then she quit after a year, realizing that didn't correspond to her values. And then she started to study social worker, and that was another completely different set of values in that profession. And then she didn't need the glasses anymore. So you see, that can be another example. Or another friend of mine, she's a self-taught writer, and so she considered that for her training as a writer, she had to read all the classical French writers. And she developed astigmatism doing that because she found them profoundly boring. And other people would love them. So I'm not judging the French classical writers, but for her, it was very boring. And one day she was at the library, and, one of those kind of miraculous moments in life where there was a book falling from the shelf and opening in a book in a page, and it was a book by Sufi writers, and the page said that the organs that you don't use in your body, they atrophy, they lose their capacities. So at that moment, she threw her glasses for astigmatism away to use her eyes more, which was a good idea. And at the same time, she chose to stop reading what was for her the very boring French classical writers and keep reading the very fascinating Sufi writers, right? And astigmatism disappeared on its own. So voila, look for you at what time you betrayed yourself for corresponding to some expectation, or something like that. I see the Land Mint is saying, the Land of Mint, thank you is not enough. I wish I can do one of your courses. Okay, I can't as I live off grid and I don't have a computer, etc. Well, but you're here, so you're managing something. Keep enjoying, keep enjoying what we're sharing here. And if some point you would like to join one of the advanced programs, we'll be very happy to have you. And in any case, if this is being helpful for you, we're extremely happy. That's why we do it, because we want to create a movement, right? Where people learn how to take care of their eyesight and vision. Like after World War, we collectively learned how to brush our teeth. And with this in mind, I want to thank Sara and the team of Volver a Ver Claro and the community as a whole, because we are creating that movement. We are creating this community that I wasn't here for a couple of lives, and things could happen even without me, which is what a movement needs, that it doesn't really depend on a specific individual. It just can its own impulse and its own thrust, right? Yay. So, et voilà. But for those who want and can join the ClearSight Method, the advanced program, the opportunity will be given from tomorrow onward. And there's something of my birthday present, but I'll mention it in a moment. Okay, so we've talked about nearsightedness, farsightedness, astigmatism, presbyopia, or the need for reading glasses. And there's a number of other symptoms that I would also like to mention. So if you have other things than these 4 symptoms, I would like you to write them in the chat so that we make sure we address those symptoms. And speaking of people having had different symptoms and different combos of symptoms, I would also like to give the opportunity to Carlos to talk about his journey. Now, I'm going to challenge you, Carlos. You have a very impressive success story. I'm going to invite you, if you can tell it succinctly, like 3 to 5 minutes. You think you can do that? Because you've solved a lot, but maybe you can tell it with the key point. Yes.
Yes, it's going to be a little bit difficult because I was completely blind. So, but yes, I am Carlos Rodriguez. I am Colombian. I live in Bogota. Here I am, 78 years old, and recovering my vision. I started with myopia when I was
nearsightedness, yeah.
when I was 11 years old.
Mm-hmm.
After you have heard all the emotional things, I knew immediately what the reason was. I was afraid of the school, and I don't want to go longer right there because you heard already Dr. Ainhoa. Then, when I was in the middle 20s, I developed astigmatism. Hearing right now, Ainhoa, I don't know why, but I developed that. I was not able, probably because I was working for international environment. I was obviously the language and everything. I had the pressure. I used to work for Canadian companies, American companies. Anyway, then when I was in the 40s, already married with a family, I was living in Jakarta, a different culture. I developed
Presbyopia. Yeah, need for reading glasses. So you had the combo of myopia, astigmatism,
the three
yeah, presbyopia.
emotional things.
Yes.
And from then, start wearing bifocal glasses
Yes.
because it was boring that to see, to read, to see far, to drive, and whatever it is. So I was driving with that thing. Well, that was easy. I was in 1995, and this was the major situation for me at my side. I was living in Jakarta, working right there. And one day I was in front of the computer, and all of a student, I see a red, I remember a red circle in my eyes.
Okay, a red circle.
I
Yeah.
couldn't see 1 meter from me, to the point that one of my colleagues took me. We run away to the medical facility right there and say, "Oh, you have problem in the eyes, and appears is a tremendous hemorrhage in your eyes," and run away in a special airplane to Singapore. I arrived to Singapore, and here I was with the retina vein occlusion that burst the vein, and since there I became blind in the left eye. So difficult days, very difficult. What was the reason for that? It was almost 1 year in things right there. But anyway, I had to continue my life. I was working international, so I continue working and basically wearing the glasses for the myopia, for the astigmatism, for presbyopia, and without one eye. So I was blind from the left eye. I continued driving. I continued making my life. My vision was frontal, obviously, only from the right eye.
Flat. Yeah, not 3D anymore. Yeah.
Exactly. So continue playing tennis, and then continue my life, my professional life. I came back to Colombia back in 2012. And being in Colombia, I was working right here in different places with my experience. And after the pandemic in
2020, yeah, the pandemic, yeah. 2021.
I was one day playing tennis. I serve again. I repeat the situation that I had 27 years before, right there in Jakarta. So I serve, and I saw
red again.
a red circle in my
Right eye.
eye, and I was so scared. I run away right away to the retina specialist. And I arrived right there, and she told me, "Oh, you had tremendous hemorrhage
Hemorrhagy, yeah.
in the in
In the
the,
right eye.
yeah, but it wasn't the retina and the macula."
Uh-huh.
So,
Yes.
and she said, "Thanks God you were taking anticoagulant, otherwise you will be blind because block and repeat the situation that you had in the left eye." So I started right there, and with some shots, 6 months applying shots right there in the retina. Little by little, I was recovering the vision. I was not able to read in the computer. I was not able to see far from those 2 meters. I started recovering. And finally, after 6 months, I was able to see 5, 6 meters away. And the doctor told me, "Okay, Carlos, you are right here. You
There's
recover,
nothing we can do, nothing more we can do, right?
you
Mm-hmm.
recover from that." But
Mm-hmm.
what caused that? What is the reason for that? And I end up with the hematologist. I'm going to simplify everything. And we found that the problem is a protein in the blood.
Um, Carlos, what
Yes.
would be interesting for people who are here
Mhm.
and that they're discovering natural vision improvement, and
Mhm.
it's amazing also to have, of course, ophthalmology and optometry, and there's so much that can be done with surgery and treatments. But how did you get to us or to the ClearSight
Okay.
method, and
So after all of this,
what did you achieve?
basically with two
Yes.
eyes,
Mm-hmm.
with all of this, here Carlos was with a myopia, astigmatism, presbyopia, without the left eye, and with the right eye that could be also in the situation to that could go any way.
Mm-hmm.
Back in this was in February this year, I received through a friend in Mexico your email.
Mm-hmm.
And Dr. Ainhoa is here, and this boy is here. What to lose? I say, I am going to follow this, and you have a lot of things to lose, a lot to gain, and nothing to lose.
Mm-hmm.
So I started. That was exactly, I remember, February the 6th,
Mm-hmm.
and I finished that thing with the with the Palmian. I continue with the second, doing the Sony and doing kaleidoscope and doing the paper, all of this.
Mm-hmm.
By the beginning of March, I remember that I was feeling much better. So
Mm-hmm.
I took the glasses out, put it right here since then, 8 months ago, and started improving my vision far away because I discovered what the reason was. It was right now I can see far away perfectly because I discovered what the reason of myopia was.
Mm-hmm.
I have been driving, and it was difficult to me a little bit to see what I do right now in front of the computer. I can read perfectly. I can read the newspaper and whatever. I start improving, especially doing the Sony and doing the kaleidoscope and mixing
Palming.
with
Yeah.
the pigment. I was feeling wonderful every time that I was doing that. So here I am that I use it. The most amazing thing is that this eye that for 27 years I used to cover the eye and I see a black spot in the
Mm-hmm.
I start receiving start seeing basically in the periphery, and then little by little start last month start in the middle. with the exercises that I follow with Teresa, one day she was doing the exercise to discover the points, and I was able to see all the points, white points in the black chart that we were doing with Teresa, and since then I have been basically seeing a little bit. To summarize, yesterday, no, day before yesterday, I was where with the glaucoma specialist, because I
Yes.
developed glaucoma at the end,
Mhm.
and the doctor told me that you have to come every month right here because the retina is becoming thinner, and
And
we have to take care of the pressure, otherwise it's going to burst.
and so, what did he say yesterday when he saw you?
I arrived right there and say, this is stabilized. This is completely stabilized. You don't need to come right here every month. We can see you every 4 months. And the most amazing was that she put me the to read without glasses right there, and I was able to read with the left eye that I cover right now. That I see you and you are right there, and I see the letters right here in the computer. Uh, so I was able to read the four first rows left to the right. She
Thank
said,
you.
"It's amazing." And the
Thank
right
you.
eye, I was able to read from the top to the bottom.
Thank
So here
you.
am
Thank you so much, Carlos. Because if you have heard, so he had myopia, nearsightedness, astigmatism. He also had presbyopia, the need for reading glasses. He developed glaucoma, and he had these like
left eye.
the hemorrhage. So he had lost all eyesight from the left eye and partial eyesight from the right eye, and the right eye has improved a lot, and even the left who hadn't seen for 27 years is seeing
Correct.
more and more. And so you had your treatments, of course, and those were amazing. Also, sometimes there are urgencies, and you do need to go to ophthalmologist and have the standard treatment by the ophthalmologist. But beyond what the ophthalmologist could do with natural vision improvement, with the techniques of the Wake Up Your Eyes free masterclass, with the advanced program of the ClearSight Method, you've recovered and improved your eyesight tremendously. So I want to congratulate you and acknowledge you. But if Carlos was able to do this, anybody here can take those same exercises and techniques and ideas and apply them and have great success as well. Thank you so much, Carlos. I'm going to
I
leave you for
am
now.
tennis again without glasses, driving
Excuse me?
without glasses.
Okay, what did you say? Sorry?
I am here playing tennis without glasses. Without glasses, I can see the ball perfectly when it comes to me riding,
Yay. And you see now
driving,
again in
driving.
3D. And drive without glasses. And you can see in 3D now again because you can use both eyes
Yeah,
together.
right
Yes.
now it's no frontal anymore. So, thanks to God and you, Ainhoa.
Thank you.
Happy birthday to you. This is the
Thank
birthday
you.
for me.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Carlos. Thank you very much. So it's great to have heard Carlos, because this can work not just for refractive errors, it can really work for many other symptoms. And getting back to the topic of emotions and symptoms, I'm seeing I was also wanting to leave people time to mention the symptoms they wanted us to talk about. And so I'm hearing cataracts and astigmatism. Well, astigmatism we already talked about. Like I had astigmatism when I was studying architecture, my father's wish. So you need to stop pleasing them to get it to leave it behind. So there's cataracts, age-related macular degeneration, high intraocular pressure, difficulties to change focus. There's somebody using several kinds of glasses with different diopters today. So probably there's this combination of presbyopia and myopia, cataracts and retinal, hole, and floaters. So we're going to talk about all of these. Okay, and more, but I want to make sure that we address all of these. And by the way, Sarah, I had asked you to remind me about this research, not this one, sorry, this one. From Martin Birnbaum and Kelly Thoman, Visual Function in Multiple Personality Disorder. This is very interesting to mention now because it gives a lot of hope. Carlos' example gives a lot of hope and inspiration, but this research also. So what's the main idea behind this research? That is, you've heard about multiple personality disorders, so people who have very different ways of being and that can change from one moment to the next. And maybe we can talk about it in a metaphorical way, like somebody believes they're Napoleon for a while, and then the next minute they believe they're, I don't know, Teresa of Calcutta, to say something, no? And when they're Napoleon, they may be nearsighted, and the next minute when they're in the Teresa of Calcutta, they see perfectly well. Or with one personality, they can be farsighted, and with the other one, they can be nearsighted, which is like the opposite. And it happens in a split second. The moment the personality changes, the eyesight pattern changes, which gives us lots of hope, meaning when we solve that unsolved or stuck emotion or way of being, the moment we release that way of being, the visual symptom goes away immediately. And I have seen, for some people, it takes time, and because they have to adapt to a different way of being. And for some people, it requires a process that requires time. But I have also seen people release that way of being quickly and improve their eyesight very noticeably and very importantly, very fast. I have seen processes taking place in as quickly as half an hour. I remember this workshop where there was this guy that had come with a lot of myopia and astigmatism. And this was an in-person workshop. And in this in-person workshop, we have opportunities to do things like hugging each other, right? And so I was talking about an interesting way to optimize how we hug each other to express affection and to have all the benefits from the hug. And there's also research about this. But anyway, so the guy was there, and with this very macho, I am hard and I don't show my feelings kind of attitude. And when I was explaining about the hug, secretly, he was like, oh, she's doing all these silly things and this is nonsense and it doesn't make any sense. But anyway, he said, okay, I'm in the class. I'm not going to make a fuss. I want to help the process of the class go on. So I'll give it a try. And so he went into this way of hugging with another participant, and he experienced really something different that he hadn't allowed himself to experience in his life before. And after that hug, he was seeing perfectly clear. And it was a course in which we were many people. So there was a stage and a mic and everything. So he came to the stage and he picked up the mic to say in tears, like he explained what I just said. So Ainhoa told us that we were going to hug, and I thought it was a silly, stupid idea because I was taught to be a macho that doesn't show their feelings. But I hugged this participant that I just know from yesterday and that didn't know. And I experienced this love and affection, and now I see perfectly clear. And so now I'm going to go home and I'm going to hug my wife and hug my kids and my daughters because I'm never showing them affection. And it actually feels very good. So, and that was a split moment of a change of perception. And this guy, to the date, and we're talking, this was in 2016. So we're 7 years later. Every time he sends me a message, he's like, my eyesight is still perfectly fine and my family life is so much better because now there's a lot more love being expressed. And he blesses the day that he signed up for the course. So it can also happen very fast when you make that shift, yeah? And so I told you an example, but research also proves it. And I'm seeing Sylvia smiling very much when I'm telling this story. So maybe you also have some story that you want to tell. But can we keep it on hold a little bit so I can
Yeah,
give more
yeah, sure.
explanations, or do you want to
Yeah,
share now?
sure. No, keep going. Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about some more symptoms, and I'm going to be a little bit more quick with this. I think you get the general idea. So some people have lazy eye, right? One eye that sees and the other one doesn't see, and then you see the world flat because the brain needs the information from both eyes to see well. So when you have a lazy eye or amblyopia, it's interesting to know if the eye that doesn't see well is your yang eye or your yin eye. Let me explain. If you're right-handed, your yang eye is your right eye, and your yin is the other one. If you're left-handed, your left eye is the yang eye, is the directive, on the directive side eye, and the right is the yin. So when you have amblyopia or a lazy eye, and your lazy eye is the yang eye, then the tension is with action, projects, the things that happen outside of the house. And because these kind of activities and attitudes have been more linked to the roles of men or masculine roles, it could be that it's expressing tension with an important man in your life, or how you see yourself as a man, or how you feel about going out and doing things in the world. Yeah. And if the amblyopic eye, or if the symptom is in the yin eye, then the difficulty is with emotions, relationships, intimacy, or the things that happen inside the doors of the house. And because those kinds of activities and roles and attitudes have been more frequently associated historically, culturally, in many societies with the roles of women and feminine roles, then there seems to be a difficulty to see an important woman in your life, or yourself as a woman, or these kinds of activities in your life. There's difficulty with emotions or relationships or intimacy. And when you release that tension, that eye can see again. And then you can coordinate your eyes. And of course, there's other techniques that you can use to help that too. There is also strabismus. So when people, this, it's actually supposed to be the right eye. So when people have an eye that is deviant, like to the inside or to the outside, that's a squint or strabismus. In that case, that also more often happens in childhood. It has to do with how the child feels that they can relate with mom and dad, because each of the eyes is associated with the most important man and the most important woman in that kid's life, mom and dad. And when there is one eye that's deviating, then if it's going inside, the child often feels guilty about the tension between mom and dad. Like things are not clear, going on well between the two parents, and the child is making about him or her. So in that case, you want to tell that kid that, the issues between adults have to be handled by adults, but that the kid is responsible or guilty of nothing, and that he or she is unconditionally loved by both. And when the squint is diverging, then usually the child looks at mom and dad and they seem so different that he or she feels, if I am loyal to the one and connect to the one, I cannot be loyal or connect to the other, as if he or she would have to make a choice. So then you also need to let that child know that he or she is always the fruit of the love between the parents, whatever is the story that happens afterwards with the parent, and that he or she can has the right to be connected with both and experience the relationship and the love from both. Okay, so there's also dry eye or crying eyes. They're two sides of the same coin. Usually that's related with handling sadness. If your eyes are not crying, or they're crying all the time, it means that you are sad and you're not allowing yourself to cry that sadness, and you're holding it. Often dry eyes appear when somebody important for us dies, but we force, for example, our dad dies, and we force ourselves to be very strong to support mom so that mom doesn't crumble, doesn't fall apart. But we're not allowing ourselves to express that sadness. So it could be mom, it could be dad, but you get the picture. So in that case, maybe you need to be strong for your mom, but when nobody's seeing or in the toilet or sometime later, you need to go back to your own grief and process the grief. Okay, let me see. Okay, Yasmin is like, you've explained everything so clearly that I'm planning to join. Great. Great. I'm also taking note of other symptoms that are appearing. Okay, so for those who want to join, tomorrow we're opening the registration for a week, so Friday to Friday. So if you've made your decision, I would encourage you to do it sooner rather than later, so that if there's any issue with the bank or something, that it can be solved as soon as possible, so that you don't regret not having the opportunity to join in, because there's only 1 week for registering. But you have 2 weeks of guarantee. So if for some reason in the end you don't want to stay, it's better to register and then cancel than to wait and then not have the opportunity to register. Anyway, getting back to more symptoms, when you have an itchy or irritated eye, or when you have conjunctivitis, or even if you develop pterygium, so that are different degrees of handling anger. An irritated eye shows that you're irritated. Yeah. And with a conjunctivitis, well, it's just for a moment. But when you start developing a tissue in the eye, well, you always want for it not to get to the cornea, but it's something like perceiving a structural injustice. And it's interesting that this kind of symptom appears more in countries where there's more social inequality or more violence or injustice and things like that. Now, I think somebody has mentioned floaters. Floaters are very common. They're among the things that disappear the fastest with natural vision improvement. But you also need to understand that floaters are a part of a normal process of regeneration of the vitreous humor cells. So it's normal to have floaters to a certain degree. Now, if you have plenty of floaters, it could be a sign of vitreous detachment. And if the floaters are black, it could be a sign of retinal detachment. So if you have many floaters or dark floaters, I would invite you, this is one of the cases where there's an ophthalmological urgency and you should go to see an ophthalmologist as soon as possible. Then we can help you after that as well. But when you have many floaters in emotional terms, what it means, these floaters are sometimes called like flying flies. It means that you are bothered, things are bugging you. So you need to get rid of whatever is bugging you, those bugs that are bothering you. It could be thoughts, it could be people, it could be a situation, but you need to clear that. And when you do, the floaters tend to go away. Now, there's also sensitivity to light. I think somebody mentioned that. So you mentioned the floaters. We'll get back to the cataracts and the retinal hole. So when you have sensitivity to light, the sun is, of course, that can improve a lot with sunning, and sunning is always a good idea to get your eyes used to light. But on the metaphorical, emotional side, the sun is an archetypical figure of power. And when we're not comfortable with the light of the sun, it's some discomfort that we have with power or empowerment. And power not meant as somebody who can oblige people to do what they don't want, but rather as an expression of capacity, of being able to, right? And people with sensitivity to light, sometimes they feel uncomfortable when other people are empowered. And when they feel uncomfortable with that, is also because they're not comfortable with their own light, with their own empowerment, with their own capacities. And when you come to terms with your own empowerment and other people's empowerment, then the sensitivity to light disappears. Okay, let me see. Okay. What else? Styes. Sometimes we get styes, right? When we have these little balls that appear in our eyelids, and then some of our glands that participate in generating tears have become stuffed with fat or infected, and they become like a little ball. So these, of course, we can help with heat and palming and sunning and all these other things. But emotionally, it means that we have been holding something inside and not expressing it. And that's why there's a ball that's growing inside. So when we identify what we have been holding and we can express it and let go of it, then the styes can go. Now, I see that people are asking about cataracts, macular degeneration, and glaucoma. These are very symptoms that concern a lot of people, so I'm not surprised by the questions. So cataracts, in a way, we talked about presbyopia earlier, and with presbyopia, so we have this difficulty to see. We need to put things far away, so the crystalline is not being changed. The shape of the crystalline is not being changed by the ciliary muscles. And when the ciliary muscles are not bending the crystalline enough, if the crystalline is not in movement, then with time it becomes more rigid and it loses the transparency. And emotionally, we could say that cataracts is the next step to presbyopia. With presbyopia, you're starting to consider that your past is more interesting than your present, and you lose interest in your present and your future. And cataracts is like the next step. It's as if you've put the blinds in the windows of your soul. Yeah, the eyes are the windows to the soul. So you've put blinds. It's as if you're not interested to look into the world anymore. You're not interested to look into life anymore. So, of course, cataracts can improve a lot and can be reverted with palming, sunning, playing with balls, with patches, and a number of exercises. But emotionally, you need to become interested and engaged with life again. You need to have your purpose again. You need to find your ikigai. You need to have a reason to be happy to live. Yeah, so that's what's important to solve behind cataracts. And often cataracts happen when, for example, people retire, or their wish of their life was to have grandkids, and for some reason their kids don't have kids, or they have but they live away, or they don't get along with the spouse and they don't get to see the kids. Anyway, something that has you make lose interest in life. So you need to find reasons to be happy and interested in life. With macular degeneration, so let me show again a little bit. So the macula, if I have this display of it's a model of an eye 6 times bigger. The macula is this yellowish spot that is in front of the pupil. And it's the part where central vision is developed, and it's the most precise kind of vision, right? So when you lose your capacity to see with your macula, when you lose your central vision, yeah, and somebody was mentioning it, what happens is that you have lost sight of what is central in your life. You have lost something that was the most meaningful thing in your life. And so you cannot orient yourself in life without that. So you need to find another thing, or either recover that which was central, or find something else that is central, so that you look forward to seeing it. So when there's intraocular pressure, well, metaphorically, you're living life with pressure. And if the intraocular pressure keeps on being there, so it happens in the aqueous humor, it pushes all the structures in the eye, and so it ends up affecting the optic nerve, right? And that can cause glaucoma. With glaucoma, you first lose the peripheral view, and the last thing that you lose is the central view. So with glaucoma, on the one hand, there's too much pressure. You're putting too much pressure in yourself with life, but also you're losing sight of the context. you're not going slow enough to smell the flowers and enjoy the beauty of life. You're too focused on what's the main thing for you, and you're losing sight of context. And that also happens with retinitis pigmentosa, where you lose also the peripheral view, right? You're too focused on what's the most important thing, or the one thing, or the only thing, and you're losing sight of the context or enjoying other things. So when there's a retinal pucker or hole, you can also ask yourself, what's the hole in your life? What's the thing that you have lost sight of in your life? So you see, there's this metaphor of the symptom. That's why I was asking when it started, what was going on in your life when it started, and what's the function of the symptom. And then you can see what it means. Okay, and when there's retinal detachment or vitreous detachment, especially with retinal detachment, what happens is that there's been a detachment from a very beloved person. And I see, Diana, you're saying yes, yes. This rings a bell.
Yeah, but I want to give the opportunity to talk, but it's like that.
Yeah,
when you are far away from the lab.
So retinal detachment happens when you lose somebody that you love. It can be because the person dies. It can be because somebody moves far away, and so there's not the presence of that person in your life anymore. Or it can be because there is a big argument, disagreement, and the relationship breaks. So these are the things that are behind these detachments. So is that something that you experience and that you
not
recover
with
from?
me, but with people I know. I've seen, my father, and now I'm, connecting the dots.
Yeah,
because he was the provider at home.
Yeah.
So he was like there all the time, He even developed glaucoma. So I was listening to you and I'm thinking of him, that he's far away. I'm living thousands of kilometers from him, but it was like that. So the emotions are there, but you don't realize that you have you know that you are emotional because you love someone or you hate someone, but it's something very, very inner you.
Yeah, when these symptoms appear, often it's because you are having the emotions, but you're unaware of them. You're not allowing yourself to process them. And the moment you become aware of them, you can give them space, you can process them, you can live them fully. Then the symptom doesn't need to be there anymore. That's precisely the point. That's exactly the process. Okay, Maria, Cirina, Dora, Silvia, you haven't had the opportunity to share. I would like to give you that chance. So Dora, you want to share? Go ahead. And then Silvia, that was ready earlier. So.
Hi, Ainhoa. Thank you very much for allowing me to be here. And I want to share with you my story of transformation in a short story. And I'm a family therapist, and I'm from Mexico. And I developed myopia since I was teenager, and for 32 years, sorry, for 32 years, I wore glasses to see far away. And when my vision problem started, I started wearing glasses, and something very hard was happening in my life. We changed our place of residence, and I had to leave my friends. So I was a child, and I was afraid of what could happen in that time. And that was so hard for me. And also, around the age of 40s, I developed eye strain or presbyopia, and I constantly suffer from headaches, which made me dizzy, and I couldn't carry out my normal activity effectively. And on 2020 and on 2021, I heard about ClearSight Method again, and about these free course, Wake Up Your Eyes. And I saw the videos, and I started doing the exercise and with only 2 exercises I learned, like palming and sunning, and also trying to be more relaxed while I could. My vision improved considerably. So I stopped using glasses at home and only uses them when I went out and I had to see from afar or to drive my car. The changes were very, very, very fast. And now, yes, and now I'm preparing with Ainhoa in ClearSight Method to be able to help others people, because I think what it was good for me, I'm sure will also be good for them, or for you that you are here now, hear me, hear these techniques, etc. And now with only 3 months, without wearing glasses and being consistent in my exercises, I can perform almost 100% of my normal activities. And yes, and this has not only improved my vision, but my quality of life in every sense. And now, so I have a group of people to whom I teach natural vision, and I'm happy with their rapid progress. The ClearSight method not only allows you to recover your sight, but also your vision of life by helping us in a comprehensive way, managing our emotion in a timely manner, while allowing us to see more clearly along the way. So I highly, highly recommend the advanced course ClearSight Method. Thank you, Ainhoa.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And for those who want to register, tomorrow we're going to open registration from Friday to next Friday. And I was talking about my birthday present for you. So, what is it? Last spring was the previous group, ClearSight Method number 7 and Volver a ver claro number 17. And I announced then that for the fall, so for now, we were going to raise the price of the program to make it correspond more to its true value, because I've been told so many times that the value of this course is so much and so high and so valuable, and it should cost around $1,000, and we're not going to charge that. We're going to keep the price in the same price that it was up to now. We'll raise the price, but it will happen in 2024. So this is your last opportunity. So because of my birthday, I'm extending the price that has been functioning until the spring for this time, but now it's going to be the last time for sure. And so it'll be about half the price, right? And then in 2024, it will go up and it will correspond more to its real value, and what plenty of evaluations have told us that should be is the value and should be the price. So voila. Thank you, Dora, for your sharing. A lot of people tell us that not only the ClearSight method, of course, improves the eyesight, because that's the main focus, but it improves people's lives in ways that they didn't even think about, because of this very strong relationship between eyesight and emotions and the brain. So people start being more happy and relating better to others and changing their vision of their own lives and themselves. But also we hear that people lose weight, they improve their hearing, they stop having skin problems. And this is not something I can promise, because again, the focus is on eyesight, but we know that they also have a lot of other secondary benefits that come along with it and that are very, very enjoyable. Thank you, Dora, for sharing. Silvia, Maria, Thirina, one of you would like to share something? Okay. All of you at once? Okay, go ahead.
Who is going to start?
So, Thirina, for example.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hello, it's so good to be with you all today and share with you my experience with the ClearSight method of Dr. Ainhoa de Federico, whom I met through my sister, who like me, also have vision problems. Many of you surely identify with my vision problems, which are cataract surgery in both eyes. In my case, at 42 years old, one eye didn't look very good, dry, irritated, and sore eyes, high intraocular pressure despite using eye drops, glaucoma, presbyopia at age 45. This made me wear reading glasses and pale optic nerve 13 years after surgery.
My
I
goodness.
was resigned to living with these vision challenges. But what caused me to try the ClearSight method was that I wanted to change the terrible diagnosis of three ophthalmologists who recommended and insisted on me having high risk surgery. Through the ClearSight method, free mini course that you are currently taking, I have learned that, as you learned today, that tremendous stress is what caused my vision problems. At that point in my life, I was experiencing big changes in my period, in my personal and family life. We moved to a different place where we encountered challenging and inhospitable people, even in my own country, because I'm from the south and the people is from the north. So that happened. A different environment, different customs, type of food, and lifestyle from what I was used to in the region where I grew up and raised my family. Starting again from scratch with teenage children and facing economic problems was very challenging. In addition to always putting myself last,
Mhm.
not taking time for self care.
Mhm.
All this led to the serious degenerative eyesight problems I previously mentioned. From the first time I practiced palming, I felt its benefits immediately. My eyes became moist and my vision began to be clearer and cleaner, and I could see more intense colors. I felt my eyes more relaxed. My headache went away. That's what's wonderful. Then, after practicing sounding, I began to see how my presbyopia diminished. I continue practicing these fabulous techniques and others along with the good habits that you have already learned in this course, everyone one here, such as relaxation, blinking every 2 to 3 seconds, seeing from a distance, and many more. After 2 months of practice, I had my eye checkup with my ophthalmologist with the pleasant news that the pressure in my eyes had decreased. At my next eye checkup, while I was still taking Ainhoa's advanced course, my doctor reported that my eye pressure had gone down even more, and he told me to forget about surgery for the moment. Almost 1 year has passed, and I have continued to practice natural vision daily. This is now part of my life. It's something that made me happy, that made me feel so good. I'm able to see the bright print, without glasses. I see better from a distance. I don't need eye drops for intraocular pressure or dry eye anymore. My intraocular pressure is within its normal range now. No more flutters. I walk with more confidence. Oh,
Yay.
now I do what I always wanted to do, that I really enjoy, and all that. This makes my heart sing, as you many times have said. So I invite you, everyone here, invite you to identify with my new good habits of taking care of your eyes and vision by practicing the ClearSight method techniques. And I also encourage you to invite your family members, friends, and everyone around you to do it too, so that all of you can prevent or correct vision problems and see clearly again. Thank you. And I send you a big hug.
Wow. I mean, wow, wow, wow. I think, Firina, you deserve a big time applause for what you have achieved. I see Diana also and Sarah
Thank
clapping for you. Amazing, great, beautiful. What an example, and how much inspiration and hope you are for sure providing to the people listening at this moment. I didn't know about all this vision journey that you had to the detail, and it's really remarkable what you have achieved. From my heart, really congratulations, and deserve every minute of it, because you deserve it. And you see Thirina, what she has accomplished. If she can, you can too. You can also see again the fine print in the products in the supermarket, or the prescriptions in the medicines, and read the menus. Drive without glasses again, like Carlos can do again, etc., etc. It's all at your hand if you want. Oh, Petra is saying, I already embarked for the 8th group. Yay, Petra. Tomorrow we'll be waiting for you with open arms to welcome you in the group. And anybody else that wants to join, of course, you're very, very, very welcome. So lovely to hear you, Tirina. Maria, Silvia, you also had some stories you wanted to share. Okay, let's make space for Maria.
I would say I would like to comment more on another story that is not directly related to eyesight, but it is related anyhow. Is that I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the ClearSight Method course, because with the development of my nearsightedness came a realization that I realized that my vision of myself was wrong. I thought that every time I spoke in public, I was ridiculous. So I couldn't even bear the thought of seeing myself speaking in public.
Wow.
And I am. And here I eyesight and speaking in front of speaking in a live,
with a number of people who are seeing you now, and hundreds and thousands that will see you later, and in a second language, because English is not your mother tongue, right?
And I remember that I enrolled the course, and I was like, no, I'm not. Okay, I'm going to learn everything that is possible, but I'm not going to speak in public, not even within the course with my mates. And at the end, I did. So
yes, I see.
For anyone.
Yeah, I see Slap USA that's saying, I need to leave immediately, but wish to join. Should I expect an email link to join? Yes. So you, in the same way that you're receiving the links to watch these lives and watch the lessons, etc., we're going to send you the link by email tomorrow with the lesson number 4, with the video number 4. The link will be there. And also in the description of the videos in YouTube, we will change the descriptions to make the link available for registration from tomorrow. Yes. Sorry. So I was seeing this come, but yeah. So you're saying.
What I want to say, because maybe you don't expect things in the way, and they come up anyway, and your life is better.
Absolutely. So as we were saying, people come to the ClearSight Method, of course, motivated to improve their eyesight and vision, and they do. And inevitably, they improve other areas of their health and their life, because it's interconnected. So for many people, seeing better becomes the cherry at the top of a cake, and the cake that is under the cherry is a lot more important and more enjoyable. And of course, they also have the cherry, of the good eyesight. So thank you for sharing that also, Maria. And Silvia, you were also wanting to share about your story. Go ahead.
Yeah, my story is one of the easiest to heal, because it's just presbyopia. That almost 2 years ago, I began noticing that I couldn't see well up close, and it's coincide with a precise moment that I have well identified. And to present myself a little bit, just to say that I'm on other stuff. I'm a pharmacist, but at that time I was working as a teacher in a high school, and that high school was well known for having difficult students. So it was a very demanding place with a great lack of attention and trust from families and colleagues. who had, some of them had given up on most students. So I came across very painful, even violent situations. And now I understand that my body create presbyopia to avoid that kind of violence. And some way to protect me, because as you said before, I was spending a lot of energy solving problems of other people till high limits, and so was really overwhelming to got it. So back to that high school, one of their strategies to control there was to use lockers to close down everything, drawers, cabinets, and so on. And the emotional things related to my eyesight that I remember the most was the first time that I saw pretty blurry. And it was just the first moment that I had to use the code to open them, and I could not see. So I had to ask to a colleague, and it was a clear metaphorical image to show me the opposite of what the equation it was for me until then, because the years before I used to work more in a places of openness to knowledge, with meditations before exams and accompaniment from patient trust and so on. So anyway, what I wanted to highlight is that once you recognize the emotional part of the tension, it's easier to be able to get over. That's why I succeed, for instance, not only to unlock the classrooms, lockers, but also my eyes. So even I began to lose the motivation to dedicate myself to education, but we were lucky enough because I have some notions about natural visions thanks to my mom, who did it 4 years ago. And I started some simple, very simple practices like palming and sunning, some specific exercises to presbyopia too. But in a few weeks, I began to see better. And after a few months, I read everything with a problem. Well, sometimes, above all at night, it gets worse, but I know what it is now and what can I do to solve the problem. And another thing that I want to, sorry, because I'm doing fast because I know the time is goes very fast. And I just wanted to point out too that this method can be a lot deeper than like other of my colleagues said before, because it also brings focus to the fact of being relaxed and taking time for being in touch with your purpose in the present and future. And that sure contributes to the improvement of any kind of problems. Actually, what happened here, you improve not only the eyesight, but the inner vision. And now I dedicate much more time consciously to myself as the best way to be able to contribute to the well-being of all those around me too. And another thing that I was writing down while my colleagues were talking is that I was wondering if someone who is listening here would be concerned about the time it's going to take, or about his her own perseverance or constance. And in my case, the recovery was very fast. But however, each case is different, and it's better to be patient and with yourself and taking the process as a game, because it's very enjoyable with playfulness, like we said, with no stress. We used to say that the more commitment, the more improvement. But I reached really the point where instead of having to practice, you want to practice, because it's such a fun experience that once you start a new habit, your body and your soul asked to keep practicing. Yeah. So, and moreover, you see the results, because that definitely works. And there are no side effects. So why not to give yourself that gift? You deserve like any one of us. So I really encourage you to go ahead and sign up for the next step and trust, because it will be worthwhile.
Thank you. Thank you for saying this. I wanted to address Zoran's question, because he was asking that precisely. How long does it take to fix your myopic eyes if you do the exercise? In your case, you're -2. As Silvia was saying, it's not possible to say in advance how long it will take, because it varies from one person to another. But I can tell you general trends, okay? First, the things that tend to disappear the fastest are the watery or dry eyes, irritated eyes, floaters, and sensitivity to light and eye fatigue. That kind of goes away in the beginning. It's like the first things that disappear, and you feel your eyes more relaxed and more moist. The next set of things that tend to disappear are the refractive errors. So when there's tension in the muscles. So we're talking here about myopia, hyperopia, astigmatism, and presbyopia, or said in a different way, nearsightedness, farsightedness, astigmatism, and the need for reading glasses. And the next that tend to disappear are the more when there's already tissues that have changed, there's anatomic differences, like we're talking here about cataracts, macular degeneration, retinal detachment or the effects of retinal detachment, keratoconus, and these kinds of things where now there is a degeneration of the tissues. So that takes more time for the body to fix, but it also happens. In my experience, refractive errors can be solved in weeks, but for some people it takes months. What makes the difference? So the most important difference is your ability to relax and your ability to transform. The more you are open for relaxation and the more you're open for transformation, the faster it will be. Let me give you the example of Laura. She was a lady from Madrid. She joined in 2018 when she did the free 4-part masterclass, Wake Up Your Eyes. She had -9 of myopia and -2 of astigmatism. And just with the free lessons, she reduced 1 diopter of myopia and half of astigmatism. And within 4 weeks, she had reduced 5 diopters of myopia and all of the astigmatism. Okay, so
Awesome.
it's possible. It's more like what Silvia was saying. Are you willing to do it, and how are you going to do it? Because if you do it from I have to do it, a must, an obligation with pressure, the results will not be as good as if you do it from playfulness, exploration, curiosity, fascination. The difference of attitude can make a very big difference of result within the same time of practice. So that's on you. We can teach you, I can teach you how it works. I can teach you the principles, I can give you the tools, but then it's on you to use them and how you use them. And we're very happy to be sharing all these free exercises and information and ideas. And we're welcoming everyone to enjoy them and spread them. And for those who want to take the next step, well, tomorrow we open registration and you'll discover all the ins and outs of the ClearSight Method, the advanced program, the bonuses, and everything that comes with it. So you'll have the opportunity to do it. And like Carol was saying, you'll be saving also lots of time for hunting for glasses, and you'll be saving lots of money on glasses and treatments and drops and et cetera. So it's going to be a very good investment for you and for your family also, because you can use it for yourself for now and in the future if you need it. I think Silvia was also mentioning this. You have also the knowledge to address whatever that could be happening in the future, but you can also help your people around you with the people in your family can participate as well. And you'll notice that a lot of people have joined because somebody told them, like a friend or somebody of their family. So you're also doing your people a favor if you tell them about this. Yes, and here I'm hearing Dora sending messages saying that now it's the opportunity for the audience to take action. Absolutely. So from tomorrow on, you can join if you want. Let me see. I think everyone had a chance to participate, right? From the people who came. Yes, I think so. I wanted to highlight a few of the comments also. The land of, this has been an amazing audience, by the way. I've loved the participation and the comments, etc. It was lovely. So the land of mint is saying, since February, I haven't worn my glasses and my eyesight is getting better and better. By the way, I'm very short-sighted, and before I couldn't do anything without my glasses. So thank you. Well, congratulations for having taken the tools and applying them, and that's when you have the success. and very happy to see that you've also had results. And also, I like to show you this comment from Slap USA. I had my first glasses when my career started declining for the first time. And then when it picked up, I had no issues. So you see, when you solve the emotional thing, the symptom goes away. And again, when I moved abroad and struggled for money, it got worse. Especially post-COVID with presbyopia. Well, but now we're in a different moment and you can again make a change, and then you can get back to seeing clearly again. Because I have been sick in several of the lives, I couldn't tell myself of my own journey, but I've had 6 eyesight symptoms diagnosed and another one undiagnosed, and I got rid of all of them. I got rid of myopia, amblyopia, strabismus, astigmatism, presbyopia, diplopia, which is double vision, and what probably would have been diagnosed as macular degeneration. And I got rid of all of it naturally every time. So you can too. And also Natural Dweller is saying, I started having myopia around 8 years old when my sister was born and had to get glasses. That's very typical from the book. Also, I was a painfully shy child. I'm certain that that contributed to my myopia too. So maybe, but that's in the past and now is now. You can make different choices and you can put yourself in a place of balance. What is balance for you, what is authentic for you, and the price for doing that is seeing clearly with your own eyes and having clarity about who you are and living life from that place of joy. And so if this is appealing to you, if this is something you'd like to explore, you'd like to experience, again, tomorrow we are releasing the class number 4. In that video, we'll explain the 6 levels, scientifically proven levels on which the ClearSight method is built on. Whether you want to sign up or not, you're also going to learn a lot about how you can improve your eyesight naturally. And in a couple days, like Sarah said, we're going to have another live that will be special with plenty of surprises. But registration opens tomorrow. It's going to be open only for Friday to Friday. So this is your chance to join group number 8. And whether you want to just continue with the free masterclass or to join us for the advanced program, let me wish you what I always say, to take care, be happy, enjoy the beauty of life, and I'll see you soon, and I'll see you better. So congratulations for having stayed for this longer live today. And I hope that you can take all this information, apply it to yourself, share it with others, so that we can create a world with a lot more clarity. So I hope to see you tomorrow for class number 4, and enjoy it. Bye-bye.